The text came through at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, the kind of late-night message that makes your stomach drop before you even read it. Elliot. Mom, we need to talk about boundaries. Winifred Fletcher stared at the screen of her phone, sitting on the edge of her bed in her studio apartment in Portland. The blue light illuminated her face in the darkness. 59 years old, silver threading through her dark hair, hands that still trembled slightly after a 12-hour shift at Providence Hospital. She'd called him 42 times over the past 3 days. 42 calls, each one ringing through to voicemail, each one adding another layer of anxiety to the knot in her chest. Boundaries. Winnie set the phone face down on her nightstand and closed her eyes. 6 months ago, that word hadn't existed between them. 6 months ago, Elliot had called her on a Thursday evening, his voice tight with stress in a way she recognized immediately, the same tone he'd used at 15 when he'd wrecked her car, at 22 when he'd almost failed thermodynamics. Mom, can we talk? Winnie had been washing dishes in the small kitchen of her house then, the 3-bedroom craftsman in southeast Portland where she'd raised Elliot alone after James left when the boy was 5. 27 years in that house. Every doorframe marked with Elliot's height at different ages. Every creaking floorboard a memory. Of course, sweetheart. What's wrong? It's not wrong exactly. It's just a pause. Muffled voices in the background. Ramona, his wife of 2 years. We're spending $3,200 a month on rent, Mom. Throwing it away. We'll never save for our future like this. Ramona, 29, blonde, marketing manager at a tech startup. Winnie had met her 3 times. Once at the wedding, twice at strained holiday dinners where Ramona's smile never quite reached her eyes. Seattle's expensive, Winnie said carefully. But you're both working. Surely, we're trying, but Ramona's pregnant. 3 months. His voice cracked slightly. We're going to have a baby, Mom. We need stability, a real home. A grandchild. Winnie's grip tightened on the dish she was washing. A grandchild. We found a house in Maple Leaf. 3 bedrooms, good schools nearby. But we need $75,000 for the down payment, and we just don't have it. Silence stretched between them across the 174 miles from Portland to Seattle. Mom, I wouldn't ask if we had any other option. I know you've already done so much. How much are the monthly payments? $1,600. We can handle that, both our salaries combined. We just need help with the down payment. I'll pay you back, I swear. Once the baby comes and we get settled. Winnie had looked around her kitchen. At the coffee maker James had bought her for their 10th anniversary. At the refrigerator covered in Elliot's childhood drawings, still held up with magnets after all these years. At the window overlooking the backyard where she'd taught Elliot to ride a bike. She'd opened her retirement account the next morning. $75,000. Every penny she'd saved from 30 years of nursing. The fund that was supposed to carry her through her 70s and 80s. The nest egg her financial advisor had told her never to touch. This is what mothers do, she'd told herself, signing the withdrawal forms. This is temporary. He'll pay me back. The closing happened on a gray October afternoon. Winnie drove up to Seattle with a cashier's check in her purse, met Elliot and Ramona at the title company. Ramona had hugged her. Quick, perfunctory. Thank you so much, Winifred. This means everything. Not Mom. Never Mom. Always Winifred, formal and distant. Elliot had held her tighter. I don't know how to thank you, Mom. Seriously, you're saving our lives here. Just take care of that grandbaby, Winnie had said, touching his cheek. That's thanks enough. That same week, Winnie put her own house on the market. Sold it within 10 days. Portland's market was hot. Desperate buyers with cash offers. She cleared enough to pay off her mortgage and put a small amount in savings after the down payment for Elliot. The studio apartment she moved into was 550 square feet on the second floor of a converted warehouse in southeast Portland. One room serving as bedroom, living room, and dining room. A kitchenette with a 2-burner stove. A bathroom the size of a closet. Rent, $650 a month. From 3 bedrooms and a backyard to this. But Elliot needed her. Her grandchild needed her. That's what mattered. She picked up extra shifts. 55 hours a week instead of 40. Night shifts paid the differential. Her back ached. Her feet swelled. She was 59 years old, too old to be working this hard, but $1,600 went out of her account on the first of every month like clockwork. Payment to Elliot's mortgage. Her sacrifice. Her choice. Her son. This is what mothers do. The first month, Elliot called every day. "Hey, Mom, just wanted to say good morning. The house is amazing. We're painting the nursery this weekend." Ramona says thank you again. She's really grateful, even if she doesn't always show it. Every day. Like always. Like before he'd moved to Seattle. Like when he was in college and would call between classes just to hear her voice. Winnie would sit in her studio apartment on her one piece of furniture, a used armchair she'd bought at Goodwill, and talk to her son, and the 550 square feet felt like enough. Month 2, the calls dropped to 3 times a week. "Sorry, Mom. Work's been crazy. Big project deadline coming up. I'll call you this weekend, promise." The weekend would come and go. Winnie would check her phone compulsively. Sunday night, finally, a text. "Sorry, got busy. Talk soon." Month 3, Ramona started answering Elliot's phone. "He's in a meeting, Winifred. I'll have him call you back." He never called back. "He's at the gym. Can I take a message?" No message needed. Just wanted to hear his voice. "He's sleeping. Long day." It was 2 in the afternoon. Winnie began to feel like an intruder in her own son's life. Each call an imposition. Each voicemail she left. "Hi, honey, just checking in. Call when you can." Sounding more desperate to her own ears. Early November, Winnie got a text that made her heart stop. "Lost the baby. Don't want to talk about it." She called immediately. Ramona answered. "Elliot can't come to the phone right now." "Ramona, please. I just heard. I'm so sorry. We're dealing with it." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "We need space." "Of course, but if there's anything I can do..." "There isn't. Goodbye, Winifred." Click. Winnie stared at her phone. Her grandchild. Gone. She wanted to drive up to Seattle immediately, to hold her son, to grieve with him. But Ramona had said they needed space. She gave them 3 days. Then she couldn't stand it anymore. She called off work, got in her 15-year-old Honda Civic, drove the 3 hours to Seattle, found the house, her house, the house she'd bought them, in the nice Maple Leaf neighborhood with the good schools that wouldn't matter now. 2 cars in the driveway, lights on inside. They were home. She rang the doorbell, waited, rang again. Through the front window, she saw movement, a shadow passing by. Someone was definitely home. She knocked. "Elliot? Honey, it's Mom. I just want to make sure you're okay." Nothing. She stood on the porch she'd paid for 15 minutes, knocking, calling, watching shadows move behind curtains. They were pretending she wasn't there. Finally, her phone buzzed. Text from Elliot. "Mom, you should have called first. We're not ready for visitors. Please go home." Winnie looked at the message. At the house. At her reflection in the front window. A middle-aged woman in her nurse's scrubs, standing alone on a porch, unwanted. She drove home. Cried somewhere around mile marker 127, pulled over at a rest stop until the tears stopped. Got back on the highway. Made it to Portland by 9 p.m. That night she sent a text. "I'm sorry. I was just worried. I love you." The response came 2 hours later. "I know, but we need space right now. I'll call when I'm ready." He didn't call. Thanksgiving arrived. Winnie had assumed, hoped, that Elliot and Ramona would drive down to Portland. She'd always hosted. 28 years of Thanksgivings in her house. First just her and Elliot. Later with James's brother's family, with her friend Diane and her kids. This year, the first Thanksgiving in the apartment, she'd made plans. Bought a small turkey. Picked out a pumpkin pie from the bakery section at Safeway. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Elliot texted, "Ramona's family is hosting this year in Bellevue, already committed." "Sorry, you could come to Portland after," Winnie texted back. "Even just for dessert?" "Can't. Too much driving, maybe Christmas." Diane invited her to join her family's dinner. Don't be alone on Thanksgiving, Winnie. Come over. We'd love to have you. But Winnie's pride wouldn't let her. I'm fine. Actually, I'm working a shift. Holiday pay, you know. She wasn't working. She sat in her apartment and ate turkey breast from the deli section, watching the Macy's parade on the small TV she'd bought at a pawn shop. At 6 p.m., she pulled out the photo album she'd brought from the old house. Pictures of Elliot at every age. Elliot at 2, covered in chocolate cake. Elliot at 8, missing his front teeth. Elliot at 18, in his cap and gown. Elliot at 32, getting married. Ramona in white. Winnie in navy blue, standing to the side. She closed the album and went to bed. Christmas was the same story. Ramona's parents again. They're doing this big thing. Maybe New Year's? New Year's came. Winnie called at 11:30 p.m. on December 31st, just to say Happy New Year. To hear her son's voice as one year became another, Ramona answered. Background noise, music, laughter, the sound of a party. Ramona, hi. Is Elliot there? I just wanted to wish. He can't talk. We're at a party. Music swelled. Someone screamed with laughter. Just for a second? It's almost midnight. Winifred, he's busy. I'll tell him you called. The line went dead. Winnie stood in her quiet apartment. Through the thin walls, she could hear her neighbor's TV, the ball dropping in Times Square, the crowd counting down. 10, 9, 8. At midnight, she poured herself a glass of cheap wine, the first alcohol she'd had in months, and made a resolution. She would stop calling so much. She was being clingy, overbearing. He was building his own life. She needed to respect that. She'd be better. She'd give him space. February 14th, Valentine's Day. Winnie pulled a double shift at Providence. Someone had called in sick, and they were understaffed. 16 hours on her feet. 2 code blues. 1 death. A woman named Patricia Morrison, age 61, massive stroke, gone before her family could arrive. Winnie had held Patricia's hand as she died, had watched the monitors flatline, had helped bag the body and call the morgue. Patricia Morrison had been 59, just like Winnie, when she'd had the stroke. By the time the ambulance brought her in, it was already too late. Winnie looked at Patricia's chart. Married, 2 children listed as emergency contacts, but they'd been too far away, hadn't made it in time. At 11 p.m., Winnie clocked out, walked to her car in the hospital parking garage, sat behind the wheel. Her entire body ached. Her mind kept replaying Patricia Morrison's last moments, the labored breathing, the way her fingers had twitched, the absolute loneliness of dying with only a stranger holding your hand. Winnie needed to hear Elliot's voice, needed to know her son was alive and well and safe. She called. It rang, rang, rang. Mom, why are you calling at 11 p.m.? Elliot's voice was sharp, annoyed. I had a hard day. I needed to hear your voice. A heavy sigh. Mom, we need to talk about this. About what? About you constantly calling. It's suffocating. The word hit like a slap. Suffocating. Elliot, I'm your mother, and I'm a grown man with my own life. Ramona and I, we need boundaries. Background noise. Ramona's voice, urgent but muffled. Tell her. Tell me what? Mom. He took a breath. Don't call me anymore. I'm busy with my life. I'll reach out when I have time. Winnie's throat closed. Elliot, please. The line went dead. She sat in the parking garage for 15 minutes, phone still pressed to her ear, listening to silence. Around her, cars came and went. Healthcare workers ending and beginning shifts. Life continuing normally while hers fragmented. Finally, she drove home, walked up the stairs to her apartment, unlocked the door, turned on the lights. The first thing she saw was the mortgage reminder stuck to her refrigerator. Payment due March 1st, $1,600. She'd sent that payment every month for 6 months now, $9,600 on top of the $75,000. Nearly $85,000 total, poured into a house for a son who told her not to call. Winnie made tea she didn't drink, sat in her Goodwill armchair, stared at the wall. At 3 a.m., still awake, she did the math on a notepad. Down payment, $75,000, 6 months mortgage, $9,600 total invested, $84,600 her entire retirement. Gone. For what? For a son who wanted boundaries. For a daughter-in-law who couldn't even call her mom. For a grandchild that had never existed. Had Ramona ever been pregnant? Or had that been a lie, too? Winnie looked around her studio apartment. 550 square feet. Thrift store furniture. A hot plate for cooking. At 59 years old, this was what she had. This was what sacrificing everything had bought her. She picked up her phone, found Elliot's contact. Her thumb hovered over his name. The contact photo was from his college graduation, cap and gown, that proud smile. She pressed the 3 dots, scrolled to delete contact, hesitated. If he doesn't want his mother, maybe his mother doesn't need to keep paying for his house. She deleted the contact. Then she sat in the dark until sunrise, arguing with herself. Maybe she was overreacting. Maybe he was just stressed. Maybe she should give him another week, another month. Maybe mothers weren't supposed to give up this easily. But then she remembered his voice. It's suffocating. She remembered standing on his porch, knocking, watching shadows move while he pretended she didn't exist. She remembered Thanksgiving alone, Christmas alone, New Year's alone. She waited 2 weeks, gave him time to cool off, to call and apologize, to acknowledge what he'd said. The mortgage payment came due. She stared at the bank app on her phone. The transfer $1,600 button waiting. Every month for 6 months, she'd press that button without hesitation. This time she closed the app. Instead, she Googled real estate agent Seattle. Found a highly rated name, Marcus Webb, Prestige Real Estate. Her finger hovered over the call button. Last chance, she told herself. You call this agent, there's no going back. She thought about Elliot at 5 years old, climbing into bed with her during thunderstorms. Elliot at 12, bringing her breakfast in bed for Mother's Day. Burnt toast and watery scrambled eggs, but made with such love. Elliot at 25, walking across the stage to receive his engineering diploma, looking into the crowd until he found her, nodding. Then she thought about Elliot at 32, saying, "Don't call me anymore." She pressed call. "Marcus Webb, Prestige Real Estate, how can I help you?" Winnie's voice was steady, calm, certain. "Hello, I have a property in Seattle I need to sell quickly." Marcus Webb met Winnie at a Starbucks near Providence Hospital 2 days later. He was in his mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, navy suit, the kind of confident professionalism that came from years of closing deals. "Mrs. Fletcher, thank you for meeting with me." He pulled out a folder, slid a business card across the table. "You mentioned you want to sell a property in Seattle?" "Yes." Winnie wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, black, no sugar, the way she'd learned to drink it during 30 years of night shifts. "A house in the Maple Leaf neighborhood, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. I bought it 6 months ago." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "That's a hot area. Are you relocating back to Seattle?" "No, the house is occupied by my son and his wife." Understanding flickered across Marcus's face. He'd probably seen this before. Family entanglements, money mixing with love, the inevitable complications. "I see, and your son knows you're planning to sell?" "Not yet." Marcus set down his pen. "Mrs. Fletcher, I need to ask whose name is on the deed?" "Mine. Only mine. I made the down payment and I make the monthly mortgage payments. $1,600 every month for 6 months. And your son has been paying you rent or—" "Nothing. I've been covering everything." Winnie met his eyes. "Can I sell it?" "Legally, absolutely. The property is solely yours. But there are steps." Marcus pulled out a notepad. "In Washington State, if someone is living in a property you own, you need to give them written notice. 20 days for month-to-month occupancy. After that, if they don't vacate, you can pursue formal eviction, but 20 days. Yes, but Mrs. Fletcher, I should mention family situations can be complicated. Have you considered—" "I've considered everything." Winnie's voice was quiet but firm. How quickly can we move once I give notice? Marcus studied her for a moment. Then he nodded. Seattle's market is extremely hot right now. If the house is in good condition, we could have offers within a week of listing. 2 weeks to close with the right buyer. But first I'll need to do an appraisal. When? I can drive up tomorrow if you'd like. Get photos, measurements, comparable sales in the area. He paused. Will your son be home? I don't know. Winnie realized she had no idea what Elliot's schedule was anymore. But I don't need his permission to appraise my own property, do I? No, ma'am, you don't. They scheduled it for Thursday morning, 10 a.m. That night Winnie couldn't sleep. She lay in her bed, a full-size mattress on the floor, no frame because frames cost money, and stared at the ceiling. The apartment above her was having a party. Bass thumped through the floor. Voices shouted. Life happening all around her while she lay in the dark, planning to upend her son's world. Am I being cruel? She wondered. Am I overreacting to one bad phone call? But it wasn't one phone call. It was months of distance. Months of unreturned calls, canceled holidays, standing alone on a porch while he hid inside. Around 2 a.m. she gave up on sleep, made tea, sat at her tiny kitchen table, a folding card table from Target, and did something she'd been avoiding. She needed to understand where their money was going. Elliot was an electrical engineer at a tech company. His salary had to be at least $85,000, probably more. Ramona worked in marketing, maybe $65,000. Combined income, $150,000 a year. They should have savings. Should be able to afford a rental deposit, first and last month's rent. Should have some cushion. So why had Elliot said they were drowning? Where was all their money going? Winnie opened her laptop, a refurbished Dell she'd bought for $200, stared at the Google search bar. Diane, her friend from the hospital, had mentioned something a few weeks ago over lunch. You know kids these days, they post everything online. My daughter, she's got one of those Instagram things. Posts what she had for breakfast, where she goes, everything. Winnie had never been on Instagram, didn't understand social media, but she typed it in. Instagram.com, created an account. Username, WFLetch2024. Profile picture, blank. No posts. Then she searched, Ramona Fletcher. 3 accounts came up. The second one, @RamonaLuxLife. Public profile, 247 followers. Winnie clicked. The screen filled with photos. Ramona in designer clothes. Ramona at expensive restaurants. Ramona holding shopping bags, cocktails, luxury goods. Winnie's hands started shaking. She scrolled back. 6 months. To October, right after they'd bought the house. Post from November 3rd. Photo, Ramona and Elliot at a restaurant, dim lighting, fancy plating, wine glasses. Caption, when Bae surprises you with the best anniversary dinner at Canlis's 7 courses of pure heaven. Hashtag Blessed Seattle Foodie, anniversary goals. Winnie Googled Canlis Seattle. Her stomach dropped. Tasting menu, $285 per person. Wine pairing, another $145. For one dinner, over $800. She kept scrolling. Post from November 18th. Photo, a gleaming black BMW in their driveway. Elliot standing next to it, grinning. Caption, upgraded our ride. My hubby works so hard, he deserves this 2024 BMW 430i. Dreams do come true. Hashtag BMW Life, hashtag new car. Blessed Winnie zoomed in on the license plate. Temporary tags. She Googled BMW 430i price. Starting at $53,000. Post from December 8th. Photo, close-up of a Louis Vuitton Neverfull bag. The signature monogram clear. Caption, early Christmas present to myself. Because I'm worth it. Treat yourself. Louis Vuitton. Luxury life price, $2,000. Post from January 12th. Multiple photos, white sand beach, crystal blue water, infinity pool. Ramona in a bikini holding a Mai Tai. Elliot tanned and relaxed. Location tagged, Maui, Hawaii. Caption: Week in paradise with my love. Goodbye, rainy Seattle. Hello, vitamin D. Best anniversary trip ever. Hashtag Hawaii, Maui. Life, thwa. Couple goals down a living our best life. Winnie clicked through the photos. Resort name visible on a towel. Grand Wailea. She Googled it. Rooms starting at $800 per night. 7 nights. $500-600 minimum, plus flights, plus food, plus activities. Call it $8,000. Maybe 10. Post from February 9th. Photo: Elliot's wrist, a Rolex gleaming in sunlight. Caption: He kept saying he wanted one, so I made it happen. Happy 32nd birthday to my amazing husband. You deserve the world. Hatch, Rolex, birthday boy, spoiling my man. Winnie stared at the watch. She didn't need to Google it. She knew what Rolexes cost. $8,000. Minimum, probably more. She opened her calculator app. Canless dinner, $800 BMW, $53,000 Louis Vuitton bag, $2,100. Maui trip, $10,000. Rolex, $8,000 total, $73,900 in 6 months. While Winnie sent them $1,600 every month for their mortgage. While she ate ramen and worked 55-hour weeks. While she lived in 550 square feet with thrift store furniture. Winnie screenshot every post. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. Then she saw the dates. The BMW purchase, November 18th, 3 weeks after she'd transferred $75,000 for their down payment. The Maui trip, January, right after she'd sent the January mortgage payment. The Rolex, February 9th, 1 week before Elliot told her to stop calling. They hadn't spent their money on the house. They'd spent it on themselves. Every dollar she sent freed up their income for luxuries, for trips and watches and designer bags. She wasn't helping them build a future. She was subsidizing a lifestyle they couldn't afford. And when she'd asked for something in return, not money, just basic human connection, just phone calls and holiday visits, they'd cut her off. Don't call me anymore. Winnie closed her laptop, sat in the dark. The party upstairs had ended. The building was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. She thought about calling Diane, but it was 4 a.m. She thought about calling Elliot, confronting him about the Instagram posts. But why? What would he say? They'd make excuses. Ramona's parents gave them money. Those were birthday gifts. That watch was on sale. Lies on top of lies. At 6 a.m., Winnie got ready for work. Showered, put on her scrubs. Looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. Dark circles under her eyes. New lines around her mouth. Gray hair she couldn't afford to color. She looked old. Used up. Exhausted. She looked like what she was. A woman who'd given everything and gotten nothing back. Her phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. All set for 10 a.m. tomorrow. See you in Seattle. Winnie typed back. I'll meet you there. The drive to Seattle felt longer than usual. Winnie left Portland at 7 a.m., stopped once for gas and bad coffee, arrived at the Maple Leaf House at 9:45. Marcus was already there, parked across the street in a silver sedan, typing on his phone. When he saw Winnie, he got out. Morning, Mrs. Fletcher. Beautiful property. It was beautiful. Craftsman style, painted a soft gray with white trim. The lawn was perfectly manicured. Had they hired a landscaping service? The flower beds were mulched. A wreath hung on the front door. In the driveway, the BMW from Instagram. Black, gleaming. Probably $50,000 sitting there. Winnie's $1,600 per month materialized in metal and leather. Shall we? Marcus gestured to the front door. Winnie didn't have keys. She'd never had keys. The house had gone straight from the title company to Elliot. She walked up the path, her property, and rang the doorbell. Footsteps inside. The door opened. Ramona stood there in yoga pants and an oversized hoodie. Lululemon, Winnie noted, another $100 item. Her blonde hair was pulled into a messy bun. No makeup, but still pretty. 29 years old and flawless. She saw Winnie and froze. Winifred, what are you doing here? This is my property. I'm having it appraised. Winnie kept her voice level. This is Marcus Webb, my real estate agent. Ramona's eyes darted to Marcus, then back to Winnie. Appraised? Why would you? She stopped herself. Elliot didn't mention you were coming. Elliot doesn't take my calls anymore. Remember? Color drained from Ramona's face. She gripped the door frame. This is our home. The house is entirely in my name, Winnie said. I make all the mortgage payments. I own this property. You can't just... Ramona's voice rose. She turned and shouted into the house. Elliot! Elliot! Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Elliot appeared behind Ramona, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, hair disheveled. Must be his day off. When he saw Winnie, confusion flashed across his face. Then anger. Mom, what the hell are you doing here? Mom. First time he'd called her that in months. I'm appraising my property. Winnie gestured to Marcus. This is Marcus Webb. He's a real estate agent. Elliot's eyes widened. Real estate agent? Why would you? He looked at Ramona, then back at Winnie. Are you insane? I'm being practical. Practical? His voice cracked. This is our house. I paid for this house, Winnie corrected. You made it very clear you don't want me in your life, so I'm divesting from obligations that tie us together. Ramona grabbed Elliot's arm. Do something. She can't do this. Marcus cleared his throat. Actually, legally, this is ridiculous. Elliot stepped onto the porch. Mom, you can't sell our house. I can and I will. Winnie pulled out her phone, opened the screenshots. You want to talk about ridiculous? Let's talk about this. She held up the phone, the canless dinner post. Elliot's face went pale. Winnie swiped. The BMW, the Louis Vuitton bag, the Maui vacation, the Rolex. $73,900, Winnie said quietly. In 6 months, while I worked double shifts to pay your mortgage, while I lived in a studio apartment and ate microwave dinners. That's private, Ramona sputtered. It's public Instagram. Winnie's voice was steel. Anyone can see it. Elliot stared at the phone, then at his wife. Ramona, I thought you made that account private. So you knew, Winnie said. You knew what she was posting. Mom, it's not what it looks like. What does it look like, Elliot? Tell me. Silence. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps I should— No! Winnie kept her eyes on her son. Mr. Webb needs to see the property. We're doing this now. You gave this house to us. Ramona's voice turned shrill. You can't take it back. I didn't give it to you. I paid for it. There's a difference. Winnie turned to Marcus. Can we proceed? Where did you get the money for all this? Winnie asked, gesturing to the BMW. The trips, the watch, the bags? Ramona and Elliot exchanged a look. Tell her, Elliot muttered. Tell me what? Ramona's jaw tightened. My parents gave us money. A wedding gift. $30,000. To invest in your future, Winnie said. And you invested it in what? Vacations and luxury goods? It was our money to spend however we wanted. Do your parents know? Winnie asked. Do Vincent and Patricia know you spent their $30,000 gift on a Rolex and a trip to Maui instead of building equity or saving for an actual future? Ramona's face crumpled. You can't tell them. I don't need to tell them anything. It's all public on your Instagram. Please, Ramona's voice broke. If they find out, they'll disown me. Winnie looked at her daughter-in-law, 29 years old, terrified, trapped in lies of her own making. She felt a flicker of something, not sympathy exactly, but recognition. Ramona was a child playing at being an adult, spending money she didn't have to project a life she hadn't earned. That's between you and them, Winnie said finally. She turned to Marcus. I want to list this immediately. How fast can we move? In this market, 2 weeks, maybe less. Mom, please. Elliot grabbed her arm. Can we talk about this? Just you and me? Winnie looked down at his hand on her arm, at the Rolex on his wrist. $8,000, minimum. She pulled free. You'll receive formal notice within 48 hours. Washington state law requires I give you 20 days to vacate. Vacate? Ramona's voice cracked. You're evicting us? Your own son? My own son told me not to call him anymore. My own son said he was too busy with his life for his mother. Winnie's voice remained calm, steady. Well, this is me respecting those boundaries. She walked past them, into the house. Her house. Marcus followed. Behind her, she heard Ramona hiss at Elliot. Do something! Stop her! But Elliot said nothing. The house was beautiful inside. Hardwood floors, crown molding. The furniture was nice. West Elm, Pottery Barn, expensive. The kitchen had new pendant lights that Winnie definitely hadn't authorized. In the living room, a 75-inch TV mounted on the wall. More money, more luxuries. Marcus took photos, measurements, notes. Property is in excellent condition. I'd estimate it'll appraise around $445,000. Very strong market. After the mortgage payoff, Winnie would clear about $150,000. Not enough to rebuild her retirement completely, but enough to stop working night shifts, enough to move to a better apartment, enough to have a future again. They spent 30 minutes in the house. Elliot and Ramona stayed on the porch, arguing in heated whispers. When Winnie and Marcus finished, they walked back outside. Elliot was sitting on the porch steps, head in his hands. Ramona stood behind him, arms crossed, face blotchy from crying. $73,000, Winnie said quietly. You spent $73,000 in 6 months on luxuries while telling me you were drowning, while I sent you $1,600 every month I couldn't afford, while I gave you my entire retirement so you could have a home. Elliot looked up. Mom, I'm sorry. I know we messed up. You didn't mess up, Elliot. You lied? Both of you? To me? To Ramona's parents? Probably to yourselves. We'll pay you back, Ramona said desperately. Every cent. We just need time. You've had time. You had 6 months to be honest with me, to include me in your lives, to show even basic gratitude. Winnie shook her head. I don't want your money. I just want my house. She turned to walk away. If you do this, Elliot called after her, his voice breaking, we're done. You understand? You'll never see me again. Winnie stopped, turned back. Elliot, I already don't see you. That happened when you told me not to call anymore. This? She gestured at the house. This is just paperwork. She got in her car. Marcus got in his. As she pulled away, she looked in the rearview mirror. Elliot still sat on the porch steps. Ramona was on her phone, probably calling her parents. The house, the beautiful house she'd bought them, grew smaller in the mirror. Winnie's hands were shaking, but she kept driving. She didn't cry, not yet. There would be time for that later. The calls started before Winnie even made it back to Portland. She was somewhere around Centralia, still an hour from home when her phone started buzzing incessantly. She'd connected it to the car's Bluetooth and the screen kept lighting up. Elliot calling. Elliot calling. Elliot calling. She didn't answer. By the time she pulled into her apartment parking lot, she had 37 missed calls. The voicemail started immediately. Mom, please call me back. We need to talk about this. This is insane. You're being completely irrational. Mom, please. We have nowhere to go. How can you do this to us? Fine, don't answer. But you're making the biggest mistake of your life. That night, Winnie silenced her phone and tried to sleep. Failed. At 2 a.m., she got up and made tea, sat at her card table, looked at the screenshots of Ramona's Instagram still open on her laptop. Her phone buzzed. A text. Mom, Ramona is devastated. She's been crying for hours. Is this really what you want? Winnie typed back. What I wanted was a relationship with my son. You made it clear that's not possible. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. We made mistakes, but you're punishing us forever for one bad conversation. It wasn't one conversation, Elliot. It was 6 months of distance. It was you hiding from me on your own porch. It was spending my money on luxuries while I worked myself to exhaustion. No response. Winnie set her phone down and closed her eyes. it. The next morning, an email appeared in her inbox. Sender, a concerned friend, no name. Subject, you should know the truth. Winnie's hand hovered over the delete button. Spam? A virus? But something made her click. The email contained no message, just attachments, screenshots, Venmo transactions, hundreds of them. Winnie scrolled through, her heart sinking with each one. Elliot Fletcher, Jake Morrison, 500 memo, fantasy football debt, brutal loss bro. Elliot Fletcher, Marcus Chen, 1,200 memo, poker night, better luck next time. Elliot Fletcher, Deshaun Williams, $800 memo, NBA Finals bet, you called it. Elliot Fletcher, Brandon Lee, 2,000 memo, Super Bowl squares, ouch. Elliot Fletcher, Tyler Brooks, 600 memo, March Madness bracket, killed me on and on. Every week, sometimes multiple times per week, dating back 6 months. Winnie added them up. Her hands shook so badly she had to use her calculator app. Total, $18,347 gambling. Her son had a gambling problem. Suddenly the luxury purchases made a different kind of sense. Not just Ramona's vanity, Elliot's desperation, trying to keep up appearances while hemorrhaging money to sports betting and poker debts. The phone rang. Diane. Winnie, you okay? You look like hell. They were supposed to meet for lunch. Winnie had completely forgotten. I found something. 20 minutes later, they sat in a booth at the hospital cafeteria. Diane looked at the screenshots on Winnie's phone, her face darkening. Jesus, Winnie. I don't know what to do. Diane set down the phone. What do you mean? He's in trouble. Real trouble. Not just spoiled. He has an addiction. Maybe I should... No. Diane's voice was firm. Don't even finish that sentence. But if he's struggling, Winnie, listen to me. I raised 3 kids as a single mom. You know what I learned? Children will take as much as you give, and then ask for more. It's not malice. It's human nature. But you have to set boundaries. He's my son. And you're a person. A person who deserves respect. Love. Basic decency. Diane leaned forward. You think bailing him out again will help? It won't. It'll just teach him that Mommy will always clean up his messes. Winnie's eyes filled with tears. So I just let him spiral? You let him face consequences. That's how adults learn. Diane squeezed her hand. I know it hurts. God, I know. But enabling him helps no one. Not you, not him, not even Ramona. What if this pushes him over the edge? What if constantly rescuing him pushes you over the edge? Diane countered. Winnie, you're 59 years old. You're working yourself to death. You live in a crappy studio apartment. You've given him everything, and he's still drowning because he won't learn to swim on his own. Winnie wiped her eyes. I called an addiction hotline, anonymously, asked for advice. What did they say? That you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. That enabling just delays the inevitable. Smart people. Diane sat back. So what are you going to do? Winnie looked at her phone. 53 missed calls now. Dozens of texts. Elliot begging, Ramona threatening, both of them desperate. I'm going to sell the house, she said quietly. And I'm going to hope that hitting rock bottom is what finally makes him ask for help. And if it doesn't? Winnie met her friend's eyes. Then at least I'll know I tried, and I'll know I didn't destroy myself trying to save him. Diane nodded. You're stronger than you think, Winnie Fletcher. I don't feel strong. Strong people never do. That night, Winnie sent one text to Elliot. I know about the gambling. I know about the Venmo payments. You need help, and I hope you get it. But I can't be the one to give it to you. The house is being sold. What you do next is your choice. The response came immediately. Who told you about that? Then, it's not a problem. I have it under control. Then, Mom, please don't do this. I'll get help. I promise. Just give me another chance. Winnie turned off her phone. She'd given him 32 years of chances. This time, he was on his own. Day 8 of the 20-day notice period. Winnie was making dinner, pasta with jarred marinara, the cheap kind, when someone knocked on her door. Not the doorbell. A knock. Firm, authoritative. Through the peephole, she saw 4 people crowded in the narrow hallway. Elliot, Ramona, and 2 people she'd only seen in photographs, Vincent and Patricia Hartwell, Ramona's parents. Vincent was tall, distinguished, silver hair, expensive suit even on a Saturday. Patricia was elegant in the way only money could buy, tailored slacks, cashmere sweater, pearls. Both looked like they'd driven from Bellevue's most expensive neighborhood, which they probably had. Winnie opened the door but kept the chain on. "What is this?" "Winifred," Patricia's voice was cool, controlled. "We need to discuss this situation like adults." "There's nothing to discuss. You received the legal notice." "Please." Elliot's voice was raw. "Mom, just 5 minutes. That's all we're asking." Vincent placed a hand on Elliot's shoulder, possessive, almost paternal. "We drove all the way from Bellevue. Surely you can spare a few minutes for a civilized conversation." Something about the way he said civilized, like Winnie was the unreasonable one, made her jaw tighten. But she unchained the door. They flooded in, making her tiny studio feel suffocating. Patricia immediately scanned the apartment with barely concealed disdain. The card table, the Goodwill armchair, the mattress on the floor visible through the open doorway. "Cozy," Patricia said in a tone that meant the opposite. Vincent took the armchair without asking. Patricia perched on the edge of the card table chair. Ramona and Elliot stood near the door, united front restored. "Coffee?" Patricia asked, as if she were the host. "I wasn't expecting company," Winnie said. "Right. Well," Patricia folded her hands. "Winifred, Vincent, and I have heard Elliot and Ramona's side of this unfortunate situation. We understand there's been tension, but family forgives. That's what family does." "Is that what you do?" Winnie asked. "Forgive everything?" "We believe in second chances," Vincent said smoothly. "Everyone makes mistakes, especially young people. They're still learning. They're 32 and 29, not children. Nevertheless," Patricia's smile was tight, "surely you don't want to be the grandmother who destroyed her son's marriage over a misunderstanding." "Grandmother?" Winnie looked at Ramona. "I thought—" Ramona's face went pale. Something clicked in Winnie's mind. "You told them there's still a baby." Silence. "Ramona," Vincent's voice sharpened. "What is she talking about?" "Vincent, Patricia." Winnie pulled out her phone, opened the screenshots. "Does your daughter have something to tell you?" She held up the phone. "The Canley's restaurant post." Patricia squinted. "What am I looking at?" "Your daughter's Instagram, public account, 6 months of posts." Winnie swiped through them. The BMW, the Louis Vuitton bag, the Maui vacation, the Rolex. Patricia's face went white. "Ramona, what is this?" "I can explain." "Your wedding gift," Winnie said quietly. $30,000. You told them you were investing in your future. Where did it go?" Vincent stood up, took the phone from Winnie, scrolled through the posts himself. His jaw tightened with each swipe. "We spent it," Ramona started. "On what?" Patricia's voice cut like glass. "A BMW? Designer bags? Hawaii? We needed—" "You needed?" Vincent's voice rose. "We gave you that money because Elliot told us you were struggling, that you needed help buying a house, saving for the baby." He stopped, turned to Elliot. "The baby. Ramona's pregnant, right? That's what you told us." Elliot's face crumpled. "Dad, Mr. Hartwell?" "Don't call me that. Answer the question." Ramona burst into tears. "There is no baby. There never was." The apartment went silent except for Ramona's sobbing. Patricia stood up slowly, like she'd been struck. "You lied to us about being pregnant." "I was going to be. We were trying. And then—" "There was no miscarriage either, was there?" Winnie asked quietly. Ramona's silence was answer enough. Patricia turned to Vincent. "Get your coat. We're leaving." "Mom, please!" Ramona grabbed her mother's arm. Patricia yanked free. "Don't touch me. Don't call me Don't ask us for another cent. She looked at Vincent. Not a single cent. Are we clear? Vincent's face was stone. Crystal. He walked to the door. Patricia followed. You can't just... Ramona's voice rose to a shriek. You're my parents. Patricia stopped at the door, turned back. When she spoke, her voice was ice. Parents deserve honesty, respect. You've shown us neither. You've embarrassed us, used us, lied to us about a grandchild. Her voice cracked slightly. I don't even know who you are anymore. Mrs. Hartwell, Elliot stepped forward. It wasn't all Ramona. I have a gambling problem. I've been betting on sports, poker. I owe people money, and I was ashamed. So you used your mother's retirement money to cover your debts? Vincent's voice was contemptuous. While spending our gift on toys? I'm getting help. I'm going to meetings. You should have gotten help before you destroyed 2 families. Vincent opened the door. Winifred, I apologize. We didn't know the extent of their deception. We would never have enabled this if we'd known. I believe you, Winnie said. Patricia paused in the doorway. For what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. Some people only learn through consequences. She glanced back at Ramona with something like grief. I just wish it hadn't come to this. They left. Ramona collapsed onto Winnie's mattress, sobbing. Elliot stood frozen, staring at the closed door. The apartment felt even smaller now. Well, Ramona's voice was muffled by the pillow. Are you happy now? You turned my parents against me. I showed them the truth, Winnie said. You did the rest yourself. This is all your fault. Ramona sat up, mascara streaming down her face. If you'd just left us alone, if you just kept paying like you were supposed to... Ramona, stop. Elliot's voice was quiet, defeated. No, she's ruining our lives, our marriage, everything. Our marriage was already ruined. Elliot looked at his wife with something like recognition. Wasn't it? This whole time you've been... I don't even know what. Playing house? Spending money we didn't have? Lying to everyone? I lied. What about your gambling? What about the $18,000 you lost? I know! Elliot shouted, then quieter. I know, and I was wrong, but at least I admitted it. You're still making excuses. Ramona stared at him. You're taking her side? There are no sides, Ramona. There's just the truth. He ran his hands through his hair. We fucked up, both of us, in different ways, and we hurt the one person who was actually trying to help us. He turned to Winnie. Mom, I need to tell you something. All of it. Not just the gambling. Winnie sat down in her armchair, suddenly exhausted. I'm listening. The gambling started small. Fantasy football with guys from work. $20 here, $50 there. But then it got bigger. Online sports betting, poker tournaments. I told myself I could stop whenever I wanted, but he laughed bitterly. I couldn't. Every time I lost, I'd bet more, trying to win it back. Classic addiction behavior. How much do you owe? Right now, $23,000. Maybe more. I've lost track. Winnie's chest tightened. Elliot, I was ashamed, terrified. I couldn't tell you because you'd already given us so much, and I couldn't tell Ramona's parents because they thought I was this successful engineer with his life together. He looked at Ramona. And I couldn't tell Ramona because she was spending money just as fast as I was losing it, and if I admitted my problem, she'd have to admit hers. I don't have a problem, Ramona said. I just like nice things. On money we don't have. That's called a problem, babe. They stared at each other, a marriage dissolving in real time. When you called that night, Elliot continued, turning back to Winnie, after your hard shift, I was in the middle of a huge fight with Ramona, about money, about her parents, about everything. And when you called, needing support, needing me, his voice broke. I couldn't be there for you because I was drowning, so I pushed you away instead. Told you not to call, because it was easier than admitting I was failing at everything. So you made your mother the villain, Winnie said quietly. Yeah, I did. Tears streaked down his face. And I'm so fucking sorry, Mom. For all of it. The lies, the money, telling you not to call. You deserved so much better. Winnie felt something crack in her chest. This was what she'd wanted. An apology, an acknowledgement, the truth. But it didn't feel like victory. It just felt sad. I appreciate you saying that, she said finally. I do. But Elliot, I can't save you from this. I can't pay off your gambling debts. I can't fix your marriage. I can't keep subsidizing a lifestyle neither of you can afford. I know. I'm not asking you to. He wiped his eyes. The house is being sold. I get it. We deserve it. I wanted you to know the truth. And that I'm sorry. Even if you never forgive me. Ramona stood up. I can't believe this. You're just giving up? We could fight this. Get a lawyer. She can't just kick us out. Yes, she can, Elliot said tiredly. It's her house. Always was. So that's it? We just roll over and let her win? This isn't about winning, Ramona. Elliot looked at her. Can't you see that? What I see is your mother manipulating you, again, like she always does. Get out, Ramona blinked. What? Get out of my mom's apartment, now. Elliot, I mean it. Go. Ramona looked between them, saw something in Elliot's face that made her grab her purse. Fine, but when you come crawling back, I won't. She left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the walls. Elliot and Winnie sat in silence. Is she right? Elliot asked finally. Am I just letting you manipulate me? Do you feel manipulated? No, I feel honest. For the first time in months. He looked around the studio apartment. Really looked at it. You've been living like this? While sending us $1,600 a month? Yes. Jesus, Mom. His voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I know you are. Is there any chance we can fix this? Us, I mean. Not the house. I know that's gone. But us? Winnie studied her son, 32 years old, her baby, her golden boy, her biggest heartbreak. I don't know, she said honestly, but I think the first step is you getting real help, not just saying you will, actually doing it. I enrolled in Gamblers Anonymous. First meeting is Tuesday. That's good. Keep going. Get a therapist too. Deal with whatever's underneath the gambling. And then we'll see. One day at a time. Elliot nodded, stood up, hesitated. Can I hug you? Winnie stood, let her son embrace her. He was so much taller, but in that moment he felt small, broken, human. I love you, Mom, he whispered. I know I have a shit way of showing it, but I do. I love you too. I always will. But Elliot, I love myself, too, and I can't keep hurting myself to help you. I understand. He pulled back, wiped his eyes, walked to the door. Elliot? He turned. Call me when you're ready, really ready, not because you need something, just because you want to talk. I will, I promise. This time, Winnie thought he might actually mean it. Day 20 arrived on a Saturday in late March. Winnie drove up to Seattle with Marcus, arriving at 10 a.m. to verify the premises had been vacated. She'd received no communication from Elliot in the 12 days since the confrontation at her apartment. Part of her worried he'd still be there, refusing to leave, forcing her to call the police. But when they pulled up, a small U-Haul was parked in the driveway. Elliot was loading boxes, his movements mechanical, exhausted. No Ramona in sight. Winnie got out of her car. Marcus stayed back, giving them space. Elliot saw her, set down the box he was carrying. We're almost done, he said. Just a few more loads. Where's Ramona? Her parents' house in Bellevue. They didn't take her back, but they're letting her stay in their guest house. Temporarily. He laughed without humor. We're separated, probably heading for divorce. I'm sorry. Don't be. You were right. We were toxic together. Both of us drowning, pulling each other down. He wiped sweat from his forehead. I'm moving to a 1-bedroom in Renton, $1,800 a month. It's small, kind of shitty, but it's what I can afford. What about the debts? Her parents are making us pay them back. $400 a month for 6 years. They wanted to sue us, but settled for a repayment plan instead. He picked up another box. I'm also paying off my gambling debts. $300 a month. It'll take forever, but I'm doing it. Winnie noticed how thin he looked. When had he lost so much weight? Are you eating? A small smile. Yeah, Mom, I'm eating. Ramen mostly, but eating. Elliot, I'm okay. Really. Or I will be. He set the box in the truck. I've been going to GA meetings 3 times a week. Got a sponsor. Guy named Phil, recovering gambler, 8 years sober from betting. He's helping. That's good. I'm proud of you for that. Yeah, well, rock bottom has a way of clarifying things. He pulled an envelope from his pocket. The keys. Everything's clean. I hired a service to deep clean the carpets, patch the wall marks, fix the loose hinge on the upstairs bathroom door. You didn't have to do that. Yeah, I did. He handed her the keys. It's your house. You deserve to get full value for it. Their fingers touched as she took the keys. Both pulled back. Mom, He stopped, started again. I know I don't have the right to ask, but after I get some real help, after I prove I'm serious about changing, can I call you? Not about money, just to talk? Winnie looked at her son, at the dark circles under his eyes, the shame in his posture, the genuine remorse. When you're ready, really ready, yes. Thank you. His voice broke. I don't deserve it, but thank you. He loaded the last box, closed the truck, stood in the driveway of the house that was never really his, looking at the home he was losing. For what it's worth, he said quietly, you did the right thing. I hate it, but you did. Then he got in the truck and drove away. Winnie stood holding the keys, watching him disappear around the corner. Marcus approached. You okay? I don't know. Ask me in 6 months. The house sold 5 days later. A young couple, both software engineers at Amazon, mid-30s, pregnant with their first child. They fell in love with the location, the schools, the finished basement. Offered $445,000. Cash sale. 30-day closing. Winnie accepted. At closing, after all the paperwork, after the mortgage was paid off and the agent fees deducted, Winnie received a check for $162,000. She sat in the title company parking lot staring at it. $162,000. Not her full retirement, but enough. Enough to rebuild. Enough to breathe. She deposited it in a new retirement account that afternoon. One only she could access. One no one could guilt her into draining. 6 months later, Winnie stood on her balcony watching the sun set over Portland. From her new apartment, 2 bedrooms, real kitchen, balcony with a view of Mont Hood on clear days, the city looked beautiful, peaceful. The apartment cost $1,200 a month, double her old studio, but she could afford it now. Between the rental income from the investment she'd made with part of her settlement and her reduced work hours, money wasn't the strangling anxiety it used to be. She'd quit the night shifts, worked days only, 40 hours a week. Her back hurt less. She slept better. At 59, she finally felt like maybe she had a future. The second bedroom was furnished now, a guest room. No one had stayed in it yet, but it was ready, just in case. You going to stand out here all night? Diane called from inside. Wine's getting warm. Winnie smiled, went inside. Diane was sprawled on her new couch, a real couch, not Goodwill, bought with her own money. They were having their monthly dinner, a tradition they'd started 3 months ago. Sorry, just thinking. About? How different everything is now. Good different? Winnie considered. Yeah, good different. Her phone buzzed. Text message. Elliot, 90 days sober from gambling today. Got my chip. Thought you'd want to know? Winnie's chest tightened. This was the 4th text in 6 months. The first had come 8 weeks after the sale. 3 weeks sober. Thanks for the therapist recommendation. She'd given him the name of a gambling addiction specialist before he'd moved out. Hadn't heard if he'd called. Apparently he had. The second text, month 4. 6 weeks sober, therapy twice a week. It's hard, but I'm doing it. The third, last month. Would you want to meet for coffee? My treat. No expectations. Just to talk. They'd met at a neutral Starbucks. Elliot had looked better, less gaunt, clearer eyes. They'd talked for an hour. About his therapy, his sponsor, his new job. He'd switched companies, taken a small pay cut for less stress. About her new apartment, her pottery class, her hiking group. Not about the house, not about Ramona. Divorce finalized 2 months ago. Not about the past. Just about now, carefully, tentatively. It hadn't been warm, but it hadn't been hostile either. It was a start. Winnie typed back. That's wonderful. I'm very proud of you. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Elliot. Coffee again next Sunday? I'd like to tell you about what I'm learning in therapy, if you want to hear it. Winnie looked at Diane, who was pretending not to watch. He wants to meet again, Winnie said. You going to? I think so. Maybe. You don't have to, you know. You don't owe him anything. I know, but I want to. Not because I owe him, because I'm curious. About who he's becoming. She typed. I'd like that. Same place, same time? Elliot. Perfect. Thanks, Mom. Mom. Not Winnie, not Winifred. Mom. She set down her phone. You okay? Diane asked. Yeah. Winnie smiled. I really am. They sat on the balcony as the sun finished setting, drinking wine that wasn't the cheapest bottle at the store, talking about everything and nothing. Later, alone, Winnie stood at her bedroom window. The view from here was different than the studio. Higher, clearer. She could see the whole city spread out below her, lights twinkling like stars. She thought about Patricia Morrison, the woman who died alone at the hospital 6 months ago. Thought about how Winnie had held her hand, a stranger in the end. Would that be Winnie someday? Maybe. People died alone all the time, even people with families. But she wouldn't die having given everything to people who didn't value it. Wouldn't die exhausted and broke and used up. She'd die having lived, having set boundaries, having chosen herself, and maybe, just maybe, having rebuilt a relationship with her son. Not the relationship she'd once had, not the golden boy who could do no wrong, but something real, something honest, something earned. Her phone buzzed one more time. She almost ignored it, but curiosity won. Tom, still on for hiking tomorrow? Weather's supposed to be perfect. Tom, the retired teacher from her pottery class. They'd been seeing each other for 2 months now. Nothing serious yet, but something gentle, kind, easy. She typed back, absolutely. Pick me up at 9? Tom, it's a date. Sleep well, Winnie. She smiled, set down her phone, looked around her apartment, her space, paid for with her money, decorated to her taste, filled with things and people she'd chosen. Outside, the city glittered. Inside, her life hummed quietly. Not perfect, not healed completely, but hers. Finally, completely hers.